Good evening, everybody. Welcome to First Church of Religious Science in New York City. I want to give a special welcome to everyone who's presently signing in or who has signed in on Zoom. Welcome, and all of you who will be watching on Facebook and YouTube this week. We're thrilled to have you be part of our healing gathering. Our weekly gatherings are getting to be larger and larger, and we're getting all your compliments and all your suggestions, and many of you are sending support checks and are going to the chat. So we appreciate anything anyone does. This group is offered on a love offering basis, meaning there's no charge. So if you're inclined to support us, we're grateful. It just allows us to do more and more of the work we're here to do. We're starting a Spanish a class that's been translated into Spanish, and we know that there's been a huge number of people interested in that. So we're beginning that in the next few weeks. So let's start for this evening. This is a weekly class, by the way, every Thursday night at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and we also have a creative living series, another discussion class on Wednesday nights, same time, same Zoom links. So tune in whenever you can. Sunday mornings, 10:45, we have a lesson. So you're all invited. I don't know how you found yourself here today, except to say there's no accidents when people wind up joining us. Usually, always, perfect place, perfect time. So welcome to the gathering. So as we begin our self-healing discussion for this evening, it's important for me to point out that Louise was a student at First Church, the same way many of us have been. Raymond Charles Barker, who you've spoken of, some of you in recent weeks, was the first minister here, and he was the author of the book, The Power of Decision, and others. So there's always been a lot of really wonderful instruction here at the center in New York, and we're really honored and grateful that you have found yourself here with us. So let us move on here. All of us have read a lot of what I'll call self-help books, metaphysical books. So as we begin our class this evening, let's invite us into the wisdom of Louise and Ernest Holmes, of course, who was her teacher, to illuminate our path in healing and empowerment. So let's go within for a moment. In the stillness of this sacred space, let us recognize a truth that is as profound as time itself. There is always an answer. Deep in the center of your being, there is an answer. And so we learn affirmative prayer here. We know that all answers are within. So we start knowing that we're supplied and supported, and just the perfect message will be received by every individual who listens. Within the pages of any bestseller, any book on self-esteem, or any seminars that any of us have been to, there's often a motivational aspect of it. And the speaker, whoever he or she is going to give you a promise, a whisper of success that will take place if you follow the program, whatever it is. Together, week by week, as we come together, we share suggestions, new thought principles, keys to having a better life experience. So in putting the lesson together today, I had a whole lot of different ideas. This happens every week. We put them together, and then somehow you have to pull it all together. I was watching and thinking about my dog as I was putting things together. And recently, Jimmy did a lesson drawing inspiration from the same dog. My dog is a boxer. He's all black and has a white chest, and his coloring is a little bit unusual. He's very beautiful. And he's somewhat of a legend here at the center. or he's becoming one. He's not just my dog, he's a friend to many. He's a friend to me, he's a friend to Jimmy, he's a friend to many of the people who come here often. For the people who know him well. And he's a symbol of joy and boundless love that greets many people here with always a wagging tail and a bright, eager eyes. He possesses a rare kind of magic. And I'm bringing him into this class in self-love because we could all learn from this particular dog. So he possesses a rare kind of magic. He has the ability to remind me and others of joy found in simple existence. In my busiest moments, where I'm listening to many things and considering many ideas and attempting to put lessons together and solve tasks, a blur of tasks and responsibilities, he's a grounding force. He's just walking by, wagging his tail. Sometimes it just takes one glance at him to bring everything into perspective. Or he could be over there rolling on his back with his legs all four, kicking up delights as he's playing with, I can only imagine, invisible friends in his own happy world. In those moments, when I stop and I truly see him, without a single word, he imparts the wisdom of living in the now. Whenever I wake up, whenever I first see him, his tail is wagging, not for what might come or what has been, but for the sheer thrill of the present moment. And again, always when he's rolling around his back, he isn't just playing, he's embracing his world from his unique viewpoint, finding ecstasy in the moment. So he's got infectious joy going on, and it spreads to anybody who observes him for just a short period of time. His presence is a sermon in and of itself, preaching the gospel of joy. He judges not, he wants not. His needs are very simple, and his love is unconditional. People come to see him not just as a pet, but he's a little bit of a teacher, a four-legged guru, clad in fur, who just by being himself shows us all how to live in joy and in the moment. The lessons Spirit teaches are the ones we often overlook. To revel in joy just for the sake of the pleasure. To greet each day as an opportunity for new delight and new delights. And to offer love freely as we draw breath. He doesn't worry about yesterday, he doesn't worry about tomorrow. His philosophy is simple. Joy is now, love is endless, and life in all its chaos is beautiful. And so Spirit continues to be our muse, a reminder that happiness is a choice. It's always available, and always waiting to be embraced. With every wag of his tail, he invites us to stop, to notice, and partake in the bliss that life offers. And we, drawn by his charm and his simple wisdom, are all better for it. So ends today's story. So let's move into Louise Hay's statement, all healing is self-healing. All healing is self-healing. What I'm struck by always with her and these types of messages, it's never about the outside stuff. We think of healing coming from doctors and people, places and things, great books, great manuscripts, all the classes I've been to, all the places I've gone for answers. And she very simply sets all that aside with that one statement, all healing is self-healing. I remember from a 12-step program 43 years ago, long time, they said it's an inside job. The whole thing about recovery, spiritual recovery, it's an inside job. Same with this, all healing is self-healing. So we come together, though, week by week to unlock the secrets of this healing, to become successful in healing, to understand how to live fully and to achieve our deepest aspirations and desires. I know many of you on this call have tried many things on your own. I know I did, especially when I was in my younger years. There wasn't a bus I wasn't on, or a plane, or a book, or a place, a seminar I didn't go to. And you too probably have taken seminars of one kind or another and done all kinds of things. Many of you have gone to see the best coaches, speakers, motivators, therapists. Tried to, incorporate some of the best strategies and all of that. And my experience is they were helpful, but mostly of a temporary nature. Fleeting shadows at dusk. I mean, they're there and they're gone. And it's really probably because I didn't keep up with them. I don't know about anybody else, but I've been going to those types of things where I get all excited, I get reinvigorated, but a month or two later, the promised changes dissolve into the fabric of everyday life. So what happened to the inspiration? And how can what we're doing here at First Church be any different? That's the big question. Many of you are very committed to the teachings of Louise Hay and Ernest Holmes, and I'm going to tell you straight up, the people who seem to really get it are the people who stay with it and stay the course. Because this can be just like any of the other things I've mentioned. You can come here and you can feel good because we're going to remind you that you're wonderful, you're beautiful, you're an inlet, an outlet of God activity. There's never been anyone else like you in the whole world. You're the whole thing. You're the whole bit. And who doesn't like hearing that? Of course we like hearing it. And it's true. But the thing is, you got to keep tuning in to hear that message, because when we're going off flying solo, meaning when we walk away from the reminders and walk away from the teaching, and we're left alone with our own thinking, we have a lifetime of stuff within us that will tell us that we're not all that wonderful, and we're not all that great. And we will forget that we're connected to this one source where everything is possible. We'll forget that we were designed for success. And what starts to happen, what starts seeping into our mind is bits and pieces of negativity, old ideas, old tapes. You'll start to listen to what's on the cable news. You'll start to think the world is going to an end. You'll listen to everything you've ever told yourself that's negative. And before long, you won't be thinking about Louise Hay, and you won't be thinking of Reverend Greg, and you won't be thinking about the lessons that you hear here. I've wondered, I was thinking about, well, how come I've stuck with it? And I thought, well, part of it is because I've always been teaching it. Since the book came out. Well, when it comes to recovery, they used to say in recovery, build your day around a meeting. Well, I was one of those people that did do that, which would mean I stuck in the center and I listened. I didn't run away. I kept listening. So I kept on allowing myself to be reminded of the truth. And they would say in recovery circles, we are going to love you until you can learn to love yourself. Well, very similarly here, if you stay with it, you're going to be constantly reminded of the truth of who you are. You're going to be reminded that you have power. You're going to be reminded, as Ernest Holmes would say endlessly, that there is power for good in the universe, greater than you, of which you are a part, and you can use it. So I don't think it was brilliance. In my case, I think it was just I stuck with it. When it came to recovery, I certainly didn't want to go back to what it was like before, so I stayed with it. Many people don't. When it comes to addictions, they refer to that as the disease of denial. So the programs will work as long as you're working the programs. But when you forget, and then you start to say, it's okay now. Then what starts to happen is the old thinking comes in, which is affectionately called stinking thinking. And in recovery programs, they'll say the alcoholic, the addict, whatever the person's problem is or addiction, let's say it's an alcoholic. An alcoholic alone is one in poor company. So what they're trying to have you see is the best of your thinking leads you to places you don't want to be. And so when it comes to a class about self-esteem and learning to love ourselves, something very similar is true. if you can stay the course and you can find the time to tune in often, every Thursday this class meets, for example, it's really wonderful. We'll keep on reminding you that you have power and that you exist as pure potential and that you're an inlet and outlet of God activity. We're going to remind you that the whole world is here for you and everything is not happening to you but for you. So what we'll pass on to you will encourage you to stay the course, to tune in as often as you can. Louise had a song associated with one of her early audio, I don't know if it was a cassette or a CD, and Hal Joseph sang the lyric, and it was remembering and forgetting. It's the game that we play. So the thing to understand is all of us were raised by a family or people, and we've learned a lot of wonderful things, and we've learned a lot of things that are not so wonderful, and that's the basis of many classes. We teach the 4 agreements. We'll talk about landmark education. We'll talk about the racket. We'll talk about all the BS, the baloney, the things that lie beneath the surface, the old ideas, the old tapes that can and do have the potential to defeat you. So when you get involved in new thought, you're thinking new ideas, and you need to have those ideas get reinforced in your consciousness. If you're a person that's been thinking negatively for many, many years, or you're a person who's been shut down and you've been told you don't have any potential, that you'll never be a success, that you're a failure, wherever you've embraced a bunch of negativity, all of that stuff needs to be neutralized and replaced with life-giving ideas. So if you stay tuned and you stay the course, and you learn how to do affirmative prayer, and you learn how to build up your consciousness with affirmations, you're going to encounter all of that, those beliefs, the negative ones, and you're going to begin to deal with them one by one. Louise said it's like cleaning a house. She says wherever you are, you just start where you are. Every thought you think is creating your future, and that means every negative thought you're thinking is creating your future, as well as every positive thought. So we do an inventory, we pay attention, we take time out, we do meditation, we'll do inventories, especially if you're in a 12-step program, where you just start to listen to the inner dialogue that you have to determine if it's life-giving, if it's like thumbs up all the time, or if you tend to be, mixed bag like many people, partially up, partially down. If you want to approach life from a metaphysical angle, or take the metaphysical approach, or what Louise Hay would call the positive approach, then you're going to become invested in change. And since we know healing is an inside job, it isn't an outside job. No one can do this for you. If we could, we would, but we can't, So it starts by paying attention to the conversation you're having. I always say it's the most important conversation in your world because it's the most creative one. The thing to start out with, we first start out by knowing that God or Source doesn't make junk, that everyone on the planet, every country, every place, every religion, every being is a sacred being of light and wonder. I was talking about my dog in the beginning of the service. Every one of us is a being of light, wonder, joy. And we've learned a lot. We've been conditioned quite a bit. And now we have all this stuff that we carry around with us. And we want to find a way to lighten that load. We want to find a way to release the negativity so we can be in the present moment. When I was talking about my dog that's wagging his tail, imagine yourself just being that happy throughout your day, where you're not carrying a bunch of stuff with you. Ernest Holmes would talk about the ancient corpses that we carry. That would be resentments, judgments, anger, fairness issues, all the issues that we carry and carry and carry. And I'll throw out the question, which people have asked of me in different groups throughout the years, how's that working out for you, carrying around all that negativity? What do you think you create with it? So I assume because you're in a class like this that you are wanting to step up, you're wanting to level up, you're wanting to evolve, you're wanting to create from a a higher place, and you can. Most of us are ready and willing to embrace solutions, and solutions that will endure. Let us ponder on the profound simplicity of a biblical passage that has woven itself through the tapestry of probably all of our collective consciousness. And it's this statement. You've all heard it. As a man or a woman thinketh, so is he or she. As you think, so are you. This ancient wisdom was once thought of as a riddle of sorts, but now it reveals itself as a cornerstone of truth, as Louise has lovingly reminded us. Louise said it a different way. Every thought we think is creating our future. The pioneering insight of neuroscience has affirmed this truth also, shedding light on the astonishing power of the human mind. It's not the external panaceas, but it's the internal dialogue, the silent conversation you're having with yourself that is shaping your destiny. Only you know what it's like. You're sitting there by yourself, what's going on in your head, whether your thoughts are life-giving, whether they're expansive, whether they're full of optimistic thinking, or if you're watching some type of thing there that's talking about, I don't have friends listening to some of the rap stuff. You have the ability to think great thoughts. One of my teachers said you have the ability to commune with some of the greatest minds that have ever lived. You have the ability to lift your whole world up if you're willing to expand your thoughts and change your focus. My fate, your fate, isn't forged by externals, but by the powerful internal monologues that we conduct within the privacy of our own minds. Again, in these personal silent moments, we're having the conversation that matters and the conversation that ultimately changes or charts the course of our life. Ernest Holmes said, as you've all heard before, life is a mirror and it reflects back to the thinker what he or she thinks into it. When I first started learning about computers, I remember hearing the concept of garbage in, garbage out. And that's a reminder of the quality of the output in your life is always going to be determined by the quality of what you put in. If you're thinking positive thoughts and loving thoughts and expansive thoughts, if you're thinking as Emerson suggested, think the best, think the highest and best of everything and everyone, hitch your wagon to the stars. You might say, well, I don't want to be that optimistic. I'm not that optimistic. And okay, be whatever you want to be. But the fact is, if you can raise your thoughts, your thinking, and you can lift it to a higher place, the quality of your output is going to be determined by the quality of the way you think. If you feed your wonderful consciousness, your mind, with negative thoughts, misinformation, you program yourself with negativity, and you just stay glued to the TV, the results of your life will mirror the negativity and the chaos that you're always putting into your mind. If you think of a gardener, just as a garden will yield nothing of worth, if you're planting a bunch of rotten seeds, your mind, same way with your mind, if it's cluttered with rubbish, it's going to produce a reality for you that's not going to be very happy. So you keep thinking the negative, keep gossiping, keep listening to it, keep doing it, keep feeding it with that stuff, and you will have your life will reflect a reality that's disappointing. Question for the audience, the gathering today. Do you tend to worry a lot? Too much? I remember my grandmother. She was always worrying, and it didn't get her anywhere. The question is, do you worry a lot? Are you always thinking towards what could happen? Like the shoe's going to drop. What could happen if this happens? And if you're doing a little bit of catastrophizing, do you tend to go towards worry? Do you worry about what's missing or what's going to happen and all that type of thing? What could happen? I mean, if you do, you begin wherever you are right now to slow that down, to get a handle on that, to stop that, to stop what we call that train of causation. So you could be thinking a whole series of positive thoughts that's going to be shaping your experiences, or you can be doing all that worrying. And what will happen is you're going to draw all that type of thing to yourself. Remember, life is going to respond to all of these types of thoughts. So it's entirely up to you always to get a handle on that. I play with the idea. I have been for many years, decades. I will teach classes to invoke Diana Ross and say, stop in the name of love. Whenever you are doing the negative stuff, you don't have to keep on doing it. As soon as you're aware that you're in a hole and you're doing negative, you can simply stop. Before you break your heart, stop, and replace the negative with a positive. So it's up to you. It's entirely up to you. Life is going to respond to whatever type of thinking that you're inputting. Question here from another book that I'm fond of. Are you a fault finder? Are you always going towards what you could have done better, or what somebody else could have done better, should have done better? Do you go towards what's wonderful, what's good, what's great? It doesn't matter. If you're going towards what's right or what's wrong, if you're a practicing religious scientist or a truth student, is a person that's seeing the good. That's their focus. Edwina Gaines, who I quote all the time, would say, I'm preoccupied in seeing the God in the good. And really nothing else. She's there to see what's good. Her whole orientation is to see what's good. And as a result, she has a very wonderful life, or she has had a very wonderful life. It's not about lack and limitation, because she keeps seeing the good in the God. She's developed a life filled with love and great prosperity, and she's a prosperity teacher, a New Thought teacher, and her focus is on seeing the good everywhere. So with you, self-assessment, self-quiz, you don't have to answer anybody. Do you tend to see what's wonderful and what's good everywhere? Or do you have a tendency to focus on what's wrong and what's missing? You don't have to tell me the answer. But the thing is, it does tell you what your orientation is. And if you know that you're being negative and judgmental, then you can turn that around. One of the words Louise Hay uses, and I often mention, is the word should. Louise absolutely could not stand the word should, because she thought wherever it's being used, somebody's being blamed. And more often we're doing it to ourselves. And when we're not doing it to ourselves, we're essentially pointing finger and telling somebody else what they should do. And wherever we're doing it, we're making ourselves or somebody else wrong, or we're saying not good enough. And Louise would say there's a lot of people doing that in the world, and that they don't feel good about themselves, and they're projecting that upon other people. So her suggestion always was to release the need to use that word, trade it in with the word could, maybe offer some suggestions to people who want your suggestions. We don't have to tell everybody what to do. As I've found out through the years of my experience and listening to many really great people, we all have enough to do ourselves. As one of our practitioners has reminded me through the years, she always says, I'm a full-time job working on myself. She says, I don't have time to straighten out everybody else. And I would think that would be true for most of us. We're all here learning lessons. We're here evolving. We're here growing. And we're here expanding. And the thing we understand in this teaching with Louise Hay is that everybody is in the right place at the right time. We're not here to judge a soul. Wherever someone is, we know that they are evolving. They're learning the perfect lessons for them, the same way we're learning the perfect lessons for us. So we know all is well. So we don't put our focus on what people are doing wrong. But we do put our focus on seeing the good everywhere. So if you see someone striving and doing something, sure, give them a thumbs up. Give them a, great, wonderful, good job. Bill Tolliver, Dr. Bill, used to say to his classes that we are here to be the cheerleaders, to say, hey, this is great, this is wonderful. We're not here to be the critics. Next thing on our lesson for this evening, because I know this one Some people have issues with it. I first heard this called a fairness issue. So I'll ask you, do you have fairness issues? Where you're thinking, this is not fair, that's not fair, this is not fair, something else is not fair. I've known a lot of people like that in my life. Do you get caught up in any type of judgmental thinking? Well, they have it, so I should have it. This isn't fair, that's not fair. If you had a good therapist and you were always doing that, he or she was ask you about your fairness issues. So it would be good if we let go of all that kind of judgmental thinking. So it would be great if we all could come from the place of knowing all is well, if we could let go of some of our judgments. It would be good if we could just let go of it and realize that all is well. And as Louise Hay would say, I trust in the process of life, and I know everyone is where they need to be right now, doing what they understand. We're not here, not a single one of us, to straighten anything or anyone out. There is much to do within. So let's be really clear. If your life feels like it's out of control, or you feel like you're down in the dumps, or you find that you're not very happy very often, it's time for you to take a look at what your conversation is. Let's examine the types of thoughts that you're supplying yourself with. Because each of us are architects of our own destiny, right? So imagine, for example, every morning you wake up and the first thing you do is take a look at your social media, flooding your thoughts with images of the lives that seem perfect, and that turns into a constant reminder of what you think you lack. Or perhaps you start your day with the news. You turn on one of those main news stations, and soon after you're watching it for 5 or 10 minutes, you're on the phone with somebody, and you're hearing the worst thing that happened, and you're engaging in gossip, and you find that your whole head is filled with negativity. And all of this unknowingly is coloring your own self-perception. Or let's say you get through the morning where you've had your coffee or tea and you've listened to all that stuff and you've forgotten to meditate. And you get in your car, you start your commute to work, and then you're over and over again, you're ruminating your mind over things that aren't working, what you're not happy with, and what's not working out, the imagined slight you had from your friend, your partner, and you're just nursing a lot of negativity. And then something's not enough, you're not enough, or you tell yourself, he can't do that, she can't do that, I'm not a success, or I don't like this and I don't like that, or your mind drifts off to something else about what's wrong or what's missing. See, when it comes to garbage in and garbage out, that's the type of stuff, that's the type of garbage that stifles your growth right there. I try to give you a little scenario. This is what we call toxic self-talk and negative rumination. And it's the stuff that, most people in the world do all the time. But when you come into New Thought, you come into a Louise Hay class, you're being challenged to stop that stuff, to stop in the name of love, to slow it down, abruptly just stop. Because you're going to break your heart, you're going to ruin your life with that type of thing. So we come to a place where we say, okay, I can, as Ernest Holmes said, there's power for good and I can use it. Well, you can use it. The first thing you're going to do is stop right mid-sentence and replace it, neutralize it. Whatever the thought is, sit with it for a moment, neutralize it, replace it, release the negative thought into the nothingness from whence it came, and replace it with something positive. This is the work we do. We have to get good at it too. And again, it's like cleaning a house, meaning you're going to just probably need to keep working with it. And I hope you're one of the people who stay the course, because if you do stay the course, there will be a quickening, meaning it will start to shape up for you sooner than you think. And so it is. Let's now get together on the other side of the call where people can talk about the question I always ask, what has it been like being you this week? Talk about your demonstrations. Talk about the things you are neutralizing. And if you're new, say hello. We'd love to say welcome. You can say, hello, I'm from Kansas, or I'm from Vermont, or wherever you are. So we'll see you at the other side of the break. Thank you.